So welcome to everybody tonight. Lovely to see you all. And I'm assuming this level of voice is okay. You can all hear, or should I be talking up? Okay, no complaint? Talk up, okay. All right then. So this month we've been looking at how our actions impact our life, and how also they have more far-reaching consequences and for future lives, and also how we can turn that around, deal with our destructive habits or disturbing emotions. So I pointed out in the past that it's like the situation we have as a human being is considered in Buddhism really rare, because we have all the conditions that are conducive for doing something meaningful. And if you look around the world, there's a lot of hindrances to that for people, because they have so many difficult conditions to deal with: war, poverty, just struggling to survive. So they can't fit anything into their day. And we might think we can't fit anything much into our day because we're busy working or whatever, or busy, well, a lot of the time we're busy entertaining ourselves. So actually we do have a lot of time and leisure. That's the Buddhist approach, that we have this incredible opportunity to basically work on our mind and get to a place where we're really able to develop our full potential, which is an extraordinary opportunity. And that is the third aspect of this dream analogy. So this month I started with the title, Are You Living the Dream? And so that on a worldly level is what we all know, like aspiring for, well, not everyone aspires for it, but that kind of conventional aspiration for a house and a car and maybe a yacht, a family, kids, all that. And what obviously we find with that is a lot of disillusion, because it's not always or rarely what it's made out to be. So there's that. But also we talked about how life is like a dream. And if we think of when we're having a dream in our sleep and we wake up and we've been really buying into this drama of the dream, and then we just think, oh, okay, just a dream, it's not real. And so Buddhism compares that kind of experience to our waking life, and how actually what appears to be so real is like a dream, more of a hallucination. It appears to be real, but it's not real in the way it appears. And we did go into that a little bit. And it's an extremely profound subject in Buddhism, and we won't do too much of it more. But the third way is, like I was saying, the preciousness of this life that we have at the moment is so rare. It's like a dream come true. So we are living the dream by having this situation where we can really, we have all the conducive conditions. So tonight we're going to look at a really fundamental subject in Buddhism, which is our death. And that connects up with this rare opportunity that we have in our life to really develop our mind and get to an amazing place, the potential that we have. So, yeah, so we're going to go into that. But first, we're going to meditate. So let's get comfortable. And just taking a good meditation posture where you feel totally relaxed, but there is a discipline, there is an awareness of the back being straight and a composure. There are a few different ways of holding the posture, such as having your hands together in your lap. And in Tibetan Buddhism, it's the right hand on top of the left hand. Everything's very symbolic in this tradition. So each thing that we do or each prayer that we say has many levels of symbolism. So we keep the elbows a little bit out from our torso so that we don't get too stuffy and the air circulates. And just to allow your shoulders to fully relax. Usually at this point you take a deep breath because that's what you feel like doing. And then also just become aware if there's any particular tension in the body and bring your awareness into that tight spot. Gently release it. So it's good to center with, bring your attention inwards with a few breaths, just focusing on the natural rhythm of your breathing for a few moments. Then just become aware of any feeling or emotion that's sitting unaddressed. This is a good time to sort all that out when we have the space to sit. So it might be a feeling of slight uneasiness or weariness, or you might be suffering from a subtle depression or anxiety, boredom, or a disturbing emotion like anger, attachment, jealousy, feeling unwanted. So we just address any emotion or feeling that's presenting in this moment. This is really good to do before we start any meditation. But it's also a really powerful meditation in itself. So if there is anything sitting there, just bring your awareness fully into that feeling. So mentally merge with that feeling, which is quite tricky to do, but the process of bringing your mind into that level of feeling helps to shift it. So try and penetrate it mentally to its core, to its essence. Try and find what it's made up of, this feeling. And keep doing that. But if there's no particular feeling that's bothering you, then you can bring to mind a feeling of self-consciousness. Either an incident that you remember, or you can imagine feeling self-conscious in a particular situation. And look at that sense of self that arises. Now we're going to do another very short type of meditation that's actually called non-meditation. It's a very old Buddhist practice. It's also called open awareness, where we simply rest the mind. We relax, but without getting lost in thoughts and emotions. And that's all we do. We allow our mind to simply rest in its natural state. Just like we would rest at the end of a long day, because we're not looking here for any particular experience. We're simply resting, but remaining aware that we are resting. Which means we're actually resting in awareness. Or in the knowing quality of awareness. So we just rest. It's like just being aware. And this knowing quality of awareness is always with us anyway. All we need to do actually is rest the mind, to touch base with it, to tap into it. Well, we can stop the meditation there. Are there any questions about those meditations? Looks like you want to keep meditating. Okay, well, we can go back to questions later. Anyway. So, death. Well, the secular view on death is that there's nothing that happens afterwards, right? And I was reading a Buddhist, no, it was actually a YouTube, and it was saying how that view is just based on faith. There's no evidence to suggest that we don't have another life. Whereas with reincarnation, there is evidence, there are facts that scientifically prove about the continuation of the mind, for instance. So, I don't know if you've heard of tukdam. Tukdam, it literally means one in engaging in meditation or something like that. But it's a label for someone who's an experienced meditator, and particularly they're Buddhist, these tukdam practitioners, and they have recently, there's been quite a lot on about them, because now that a lot of the Buddhists, Tibetan Buddhists and so on, are living in the West and die in hospitals and so on, I think it's become more known, and also because of the scientific, the discussions with scientists and the Dalai Lama. So that also has brought a lot of this research into the broader community, but still a lot of people wouldn't know about it. It's where they meditate after they're clinically dead, so they remain fresh, their bodies remain fresh, even though their heart and brain are no longer functioning. So that has baffled Western scientists, because mainly they still equate consciousness with the brain. However, Buddhism has never seen it like that. So the mind is considered not a physical thing, not connected with any organ. So, and also the mind is also known to continue after death in Buddhism. So it's just coming to the Western world that this is actually a fact. And when we look at the function of the mind, how each moment of consciousness is based on a previous moment, so that there's no beginning and there's no end. So this also can't be proven wrong, that is how the mind functions. And in Buddhism, the mind is it's got many aspects. So all the feelings, emotions, what else? The conceptual thoughts and so on, they're all part of the mind, different aspects of the mind. And it's just basically comes under the label of subjective experience or awareness, which I often use that term. or consciousness. So they're all basically synonyms. So even though it's non-physical, the mind has a lot of interconnectedness with the body, and as I mentioned before, how much the mind affects our physical well-being. That's really clear. So it's and in fact can really obvious where trauma can bring about such illnesses as cancer. And I know one of my health practitioners, if one of her patients was diagnosed with cancer, she would ask them what happened not 5 years ago, because it was so prevalent in her experience that something like cancer would develop from a traumatic period in our life, depending how we dealt with it, obviously. So that's how much our emotions impact our physical well-being. And even on a day-to-day basis, we can feel that. Our thoughts weigh us down, all this sort of thing. And as we get older, it really becomes noticeable. Like, I can be stressed, and I very quickly notice a new pain develop in the body. It's like, it's quite obvious. I remember when I was young, and someone told me a similar thing, that she said, "Oh, it comes out later." But when you're older, it comes out almost immediately, not long after. So the other thing about death that Buddhism is big on is that basically they say it's the most important moment of our life when we die, because of where we are at that moment is going to propel us into a particular state after death. And so the whole purpose of acknowledging death in Buddhism and really coming to terms with it and getting our head around it is to facilitate that understanding, first, that our time is precious, so really utilise it, because one, we don't know when we might have another rebirth that will have such conducive conditions, but also because it will influence our death, our next rebirth so drastically too. So if we're familiar, if we develop familiarity over whatever time we have left in life, to be, we'll develop all the inspiring qualities and release all the downers and the distressing emotions that aren't doing anything for us, and that we get bogged down in. And if we can develop insight, compassion, all these things are going to be conducive for our really bringing about our greatest potential. And so we can have like a really, our death can be something that is not at all fearful. So as opposed to what we often feel. And in the West, we're accustomed to, not really looking at it that much and tend to ignore it and so on, to our detriment. So, yeah, Buddhism just saying, like, it's going to happen, it's inevitable, so let's really get our head around it and get on with it. Use what time we have left, because we don't know when we're going to die. So that's one of the key factors in Buddhism too, that, there's Lama Zopa, he's often saying, well, he used to often say, you don't know whether you'll wake up tomorrow in bed or in the next life. So it's something we don't usually take on board to that extent at all. And if we have a calm mind through accepting reality and that death is a part of the journey, then we're going to be in a really much better place when it happens. Because, it can happen any time. Like, just, we have no warning sometimes. So it's really good to be prepared for that. And, whatever is happening, that's why this meditation, where whatever's presenting in the moment, the emotion that's coming up in the moment, is really so vital, because it familiarises us with being able to just acknowledge the feeling, whether it's fear that we're about to die, which can happen. So we're used to accepting, okay, just be with this is happening, and go with it. So that sort of a meditation is really able to facilitate whatever is happening in our life, whether we're experiencing a really traumatic, tragic time, or whether it's our last day, So yeah, so in Buddhism, the more advanced meditators, they will meditate on the death process every day. So, and many times actually. So the process that we go through as all the sense consciousness dissolve and all the inner elements dissolve, that brings about a centering of all our energies into the central channel, which means we can become very calm. And what the advanced meditators do is that they utilise this meditation, because they can actually bring in the winds, they can control the winds themselves, the subtle energies. And so they simulate the death process, because once you get beyond all the gross senses, and it centres down into your heart chakra, that is a place where you can be in deep meditation and experience the true nature of mind, the very subtle essence, they call it the clear light nature, which is another word for the nature of mind as well. But the clear light nature in meditation, where you no longer have the gross senses disturbing you, and where you completely immersed in that experience is so profound that it is actually the enlightened state, basically. So that's why also death is so precious, because meditators, if they haven't been able to fully awaken in this life, at death time, all of the senses are shutting down for them. So they don't even have to control the energies. And so they're just waiting for that subtle experience. And then they can, because they've experienced it in life, in meditation, they can really utilise that and stabilise that experience. And that's what Tukdam is all about, that these practitioners are staying in meditation after the body's completely shut down and died, clinically dead, and their consciousness is sitting in that awareness and stabilising that experience. So we can also practice that, and in Buddhism we do. We just visualise it, we just imagine it happening, and just get used to that process, so that over time perhaps we can get better at it, hopefully, and by the death time have a slight chance of being able to keep calm at least, but also we're more aware of the process of what's happening. And so it's it's going to be because we're aware of what is happening when the senses and the elements and everything shut down. It's not so overwhelming. So also what's emphasised is to be feel completely, deal with all our regrets and conflicts that we may still be harbouring with people and so on before we die. So basically that's why we do it every day, because we don't know when we're going to die. And also because if we don't purify on a daily basis, then it builds up over time very quickly, and we have that burden and that weight. So it's a daily practice. Generally at the end of the day, we go over the day and think of regrets that we've had about whatever we did or said, or our interactions and all that. And not that you can't do it at the time as well, on the spot. You can also purify anything immediately like that too. Regret, we went into this, I think it was last week, having regret is the greatest impetus for purifying. And then you also have that what's called the remedy, which we're going to do a meditation that will be the remedy tonight. And then you also have the resolve not to do it again. Well, if you're dying, you probably won't have to worry about that. But so also then there's also the reliance, which means thinking of whoever you feel you wronged, whatever you're regretting in relation to that person or whatever it was, animal or thing that you did. And there's a bit more on that in Buddhism, but we won't go into that now. So I thought now we could just do a short purifying meditation and then go into the dying process. And I have a couple of historical accounts of near-death experiences, and one of them is on like a kind of what would be an ordinary experience, like a fairly average experience of someone. But so I'm going to be kind of like paraphrasing how they're describing it in their historical account, and then there's this. I'll follow that on when I get to the subtle part by what the other near-death experience is by a great Lama, realised meditator, and so that is going to be the ultimate experience. So he's experiencing the clear light, and I'll go through that and we can meditate on that. So we'll just get comfortable and going to do the purifying meditation first. So in Buddhism we would have traditionally a form of the Buddha, usually on the crown of our head, imagining that. And in this case, with the purification practice, this Buddha is white, clear light, crystal clear, but not with any colour, just white. But equally you can imagine any form, any awakened form of like fully enlightened form that represents perfection to you. You can have any figure, or you could just have a sphere of light that represents pure wisdom and compassion or love, particularly wisdom. It's very purifying. We usually call it transcendental wisdom energy. So above the crown of our head, from there, from that object of pure energy, streams down light through our crown, light and streams of nectar. And enters our body, filling up our body. Now we just go over the different things we regret. So I'll just mention a few things, such as we may have been regretting having killed something, stolen something, engaged in sexual misconduct. These are the physical unskillful actions that we went over during the month. And flushing all of that out, all the negative actions out through the bottom of our body in the form of black gunk and smoke and billowing out and churning out all this black filth, so that it leaves our body feeling crystal clear and fresh and vibrant. And then we imagine the streams of nectar coming down and purifying any lying, any slandering, any abusive speech, and all the meaningless chatter that we've engaged in. And the nectar fills our whole body and then bounces up again, up through our body and out our mouth and nose. And what comes out, gushing out, is all of the negative actions of speech in the form of gunk again, and like sewage just coming out. So that our body now is completely free of all that and crystal clear, full of brilliant white light. And then again, the streams of nectar come down and the light fills all our heart chakra area and purifies all the attachment in our heart, the clinging and the craving and the miserliness and the envying, the attachment to all the beautiful things that we want for ourselves, and craving for more things, that mind state of craving, and envying others of their things. And also the ill will that we have harboured, the resentment, the hostility, the aggression. All of this is being purified, and all the wrong views, the confusion. So we could become full of insight and full of love and compassion and peace. So now in this state, we imagine that we are entering the dying process. And in this experience, we may feel as if our house is collapsing around us. But that is only a sign that our breathing is ceasing. It may feel as though there's a great weight as the earth element dissolves. We may feel as if we're being crushed by our house falling on top of us, or by a great mountain collapsing on us. These visions can occur, but don't buy into them. They're just like a dream, hallucination. It's just the experience of our elements dissolving. Then we may also feel that we're burning in a mountain of flame. But that's not so. It's our inner heat element dissolving. Then we may feel that we're being carried away by a huge torrent of river. But that is just a sign of the blood element dissolving with the water element. And then we may feel that we're being carried away in a huge storm, buffeted around, thrown around by the wind. But that's actually the inner breathing dissolving into the air element. So remain calm. Just let it happen around you without feeling disturbed, knowing that it's a mental experience. It's all appearances of the mind. Then you might feel that you're drowning in an ocean, but that is the sign of the inner element dissolving into space. And with the dissolution of air into space, we can no longer move the body, but the mind can become blissful. And feel like it's expanding to fill the entire universe. Even the subtlest form of conceptual mind is fading, so that there is only bare awareness itself to rest in. And the mind expands into realms of boundless spaciousness. Infinite. Limitless. And as the conceptual mind drains away, the uncovered original mind, the natural deep awareness, manifests with increasing vividness. And then the entire universe opens up suddenly and becomes totally unified with your consciousness. So there's no conceptual mind. At all. There's no one observing this. You are within the universe, and the universe is within you. There's no separation. So it feels like there's no separation between you or your mind or the rest of the world. There's nothing that's separate from you. Everything is being embraced, the whole universe. And experiences are happening to you, but not to a separate you. They're just happening. There's no reference back to anyone. There's no references. There's nowhere to land. There's just perceptions without a perceiver. Like a drop of water that is placed in the ocean becomes indistinct, unrecognisable, and yet still exists. So your mind merges with space. Everything becomes love, vast and intimate. Every particle of the universe is alive with love, fluid, flowing, without barriers. You are an alive particle. Clarity beyond ideas. Vibrant and all-seeing, all-knowing. Emptiness infusing emptiness. The bliss of love and tranquility. So rest in that. Okay, we can leave the meditation there. Is there any questions about any of that? It's pretty far out experience. Yeah.
Kathi, what are you describing that there? Is that, I suppose, a description of what death might be, the passage of death might be like, or is that a description of something beyond that?
Is it a description of the passage of death or something beyond it?
Yeah.
Well, the first part, which was all the potential visions that we can have of when the elements are dissolving, that's like the passage of, or the process of dying as we shut down, the dissolution of all the senses. So then that was one person's experience of near death. Well, yeah, it was basically that part of the process. And then the second part was the experience of the very subtle moment that is considered death, the clear light of death. Right, so that is, but it's often not even noticed by ordinary people or people. Yeah, it's, if we're not accustomed to the experience of that very subtle nature of mind or the ultimate nature of mind, it's said that can just flash by when we die, and we don't even notice it there, you know. Or we may have just a flash experience of it too, and that can be even just a moment's experience of that can facilitate a deeper awareness as we pass on into the next stage of what they call the intermediate, or bardo, the intermediate stage between one life and the next. Yeah, and that is another whole process.
And what's that called? Gap, that sort of
Intermediate state.
Intermediate state.
Yeah, they call it bardo in Tibetan.
Okay.
Bardo. Yeah, it's very much talked about, you know, the stages within the bardo that we also go through. So in a book like this, that's got a lot of near-death experiences that explain the different ways that you know people have had that process, have gone through that process, and they all, some of them even died, you know, consciousness left the body for days even, and then ended up returning into the body. So yeah, it's not like something normally considered possible in the West, but it's quite a common occurrence for to re-inhabit your body after it's been basically, because once the consciousness leaves, you do start decaying. But even then, it can regenerate. Yeah, once the consciousness comes back. Amazing. So anyway, it's a bit over time, so thanks so much for coming tonight and through the month. It's been really great being able to talk about these things and get to know you. So we've got tea and cake out in the dining room as usual. So please join us.